Okay, so now that we've all had a week to cool off with a nice fluffy tier list, let's return to my one-man war on bikes that everyone thinks are perfect. No, this time we're not going to talk about cruisers, but rather the 650 class of motorcycles. Yep, you might have thought you were safe, but the 650 class of motorcycles sucks. Oh, quelle horreur, how can anyone say that? Yammie has gone on record saying that they're the best street motorcycles, and hell, I even put them in my A tier for fun factor, but that doesn't mean there aren't some glaring and pervasive flaws that I've found with the platform as I've ridden more and more of them. I'm going to give it my usual disclaimer here, even though it's going to go in one ear and out the other, but I'm not saying that 650s are bad motorcycles, and I'm certainly not saying that you shouldn't like them. What I am saying, however, is that they could be better than what they are, and just in case there are some of those cruiser boys who are upset and still lurking around, I'm going to use the exact same yardstick that I measured cruisers by. But first, may I offer you guys an olive branch? Maybe we can pick up a Harley for one of our giveaways. Oh, wait a second. We already did that. Yeah, in case you've been living under a rock, last week we officially now have 3 different giveaway bikes running on the channel. You've got the beginner bike giveaway with 2 Groms, a Svartpillen 401, an MT-03, and an SV650X. But maybe you're a fast boy who needs the prodigious top-end rush of a modern leader bike. We've got you covered with our R1 that we're giving away in the Expert Bike giveaway series, and the linchpin, the piece that holds all of Yammie Noob together, is the Harley-Davidson Sportster Iron 883 that we're giving away as part of our Modern Classic giveaway series. Yup, that's 7 different motorcycles you can win for free over on YammieNoob.co. If you want to support the series though, you can get access to our Discord server, early access to videos, exclusive live streams, and more. But maybe you just want to get entered and all you want is a t-shirt for your troubles. Well, over on YammieNoobMerch.com, we've got hats, pants, shirts. You can literally wear 100% Yammie Noob merch if you wanted, and every dollar you spend is an entry to win. If you like what we do here, this is the best way you can support us. Click those links down below and get started. Now, the first bone I have to pick with the 650 class of motorcycles has to do with variety. Sure, you can get naked bikes, sport bikes, ADVs, but they all use the same engines. For example, let's take the MT-07. That lovable 689cc cross-plane parallel twin is great, but it can be found in the XSR 700, the Tenere 700, and I'm sure that's just the start. What's stopping them from putting it into a cruiser or a sport bike? Well, nothing, except it doesn't really belong there. Let me explain. When you think of a sport bike, what do you think of? If you're like me, you think inline 4 wrapped in plastic with a big top-end rush, and that's not what you get out of most 650cc engines. They're typically all twins, mostly parallel twins, and cap out around 75 horsepower. There's just no way that a proper race bike built with the CP2 Yamaha engine could ever be competitive outside of its own class. 600s would absolutely walk all over them, and as a result, you see the same engines crop up in similar bikes. Where's the triples? Where's the V-twins? Yes, I know the SV and the V-Stroms exist, but why is KTM the only one making a hopped-up single cylinder in the class? There's so much diversity in motorcycling that is strangely absent from the 650 class. This leads me into point number 2. 650s are too safe. Now, I'm not talking about like seatbelts and bubble wrap safety here, but the 650 class of bikes tends to be very risk averse. Companies know what works and what doesn't, and they just don't try anything else. I have a theory as to why this is, and I think it's down to 650s being seen as the second step after beginner bikes. Generally, if you look at YouTube, you see folks, ourselves included, say that 650 motorcycles are a bit too much for the average beginner, and that you should start out on something a little smaller to get familiar with riding a motorcycle before you get into bigger bikes. What this has resulted in is a very clear hierarchy in terms of motorcycle ownership, or to put it another way, you have one path in motorcycles that's typically already laid out. You're going to want to start on a 300, 400, 500, spend 6 months to a year on that, then get the 650, then the path diverges. You either stay on the 650 or you move up for some more bigger and powerful bikes. This works out great for manufacturers who don't upset the apple cart because it means they have an almost guaranteed second sale. But because they're designed to be the second bike, 650s are a little boring. They tend to be docile and take a lot of work to wake them up. They also don't feel as peppy as they could if manufacturers wanted to take some risks. Oh, but you gotta remember, those 650cc motorcycles can't be too crazy, otherwise they're gonna scare off somebody or scare them back to their little beginner bikes. It really does just kind of hold the whole segment back. My third point builds off of this one, and it's that there's a general lack of technology in the 650 class. Let's take the SV650 for an example. Now, I'm not about to tell you the SV650 is a bad bike, because it's just not. It's actually a very good motorcycle. However, you can't look at the dashboard and tell me it doesn't leave a little bit to be desired. Does every motorcycle need to have a TFT dashboard? No. But they should certainly not all have parts bin LCD displays from the early aughts because the R&D cost has been recouped. Can you honestly tell me that the SV650X with a big old dual needle analog tack and speedo wouldn't be awesome? I mean, check out this dash from the Z900 RS. If you put that on the SV650, it would make the bike stand out from the crowd, and it really fits the retro aesthetic too. But no, the SV650 is a money printing factory, and to make it cool would eat into the profit margin slightly, so no thanks. It's really disappointing because most of the bikes in the 650 class are good enough to be a finisher bike, the bike you keep for years and years and years, but they all look and ride like glorified beginner bikes, and that kinda sucks. The only bike that bucks this trend actually comes from Kawasaki in the form of the Ninja 650 with a TFT display, slipper clutch, and ABS as standard, but no ride modes, cruise control, or traction control. Next up on the list of reasons why 650s suck is actually price. Let's take that very same Ninja 650. For all that fancy whiz-bang stuff, but still not everything you might like, you're looking at $7,999 MSRP, which means when you're out the door, it's going to be closer to a $10,000 motorcycle if you don't argue with the dealer. That really kind of sucks, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if you want to be a complete Euro squid like me and get a KTM or a Husky in the 600 class, you're forking over damn near $13,000 if you don't have a trade-in. That's premium bike money, but at least you get some goodies like lean-sensitive ABS, traction control, switchable ride modes. However, even on these bikes, I can see some places where corners have been cut. My dashboard comes to mind. I mean, look at this garbage. What the hell, KTM? Were you too busy cracking wheelies to give me a gear position indicator or a tachometer? Oh wait, you mean I should be doing wheelies too? And you mean not looking at my dash? Okay, gotcha, fair enough. But seriously, there's a lot of places where corners are cut to save a nickel, which leads me into number 3, build quality. Build quality on these bikes is generally good, but oftentimes they don't have the fit and finish of an almost $10,000 motorcycle. The clusters are sort of cheaply put together injection molded plastic pieces that age poorly and don't look all that great. Compare that to the cluster on something like the Triumph Street Triple R that we had in the last round of the giveaway. The cockpit just looked and felt really well built, and the parts were specifically designed to fit on that bike, whereas on the MT platform where the clusters were shared from bike to bike, it's not just an instrumentation though. 650s in general don't come with great suspensions, and in most cases they're not adjustable. Now, is adjustability a critical must-have for every single rider out there? No. I mean, I've had 3 bikes with adjustable suspension and never touched it, but it would be nice for a bike that, again, in many cases is the finisher bike to actually come to the table with some level of adjustability so the rider can tailor the bike to their weight. It would be less of an issue if most of the 650s that I've ridden had better suspension, period. Because I've found that a lot of them are not particularly stable in a corner and have a tendency to wiggle and shimmy as you turn or try to push the bike. I understand that this would likely drive the price of many of the 650s up a little bit, but they would be way more worth owning if they had higher quality parts right out of the gate. Also, the Duke 390, the 390 Adventure, the Svartpillen 401, and the Vitpillen 401 all have fully adjustable suspension, backlit controls, TFT dashes, optional quick shifters both up and down, and all cost under $6,000, so food for thought. The next reason that 650s suck is that there isn't really a lot of wow factor when you say you own one. I mean, let's take 2 scenarios. Number 1, a motorcyclist and a cager. You show up to your local Cars and Coffee, hop off your 650, and a Mustang bro walks up to you. He asks you what kind of bike you have, and you tell him the name, and his eyes glaze over like they always do. So you tell him the horsepower and torque figures, to which he responds, "Oh yeah, bro, my 5.0's putting down like 500 at the wheel." Even if it's not a Mustang bro, no 650 has the mass appeal of something like the R1 or the Hayabusa, which are motorcycles that have transcended the two-wheeled world. But who cares about cagers, right? They wouldn't know speed if you smoked them down your favorite back road. What about at your local bike night? Well, when you pull up on your 650, people will nod and say that it's a really good motorcycle and you probably have a great time and made a great choice and blah, 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 blah. Oh, look, that guy has a Tuono. I want to go over and look at that. They just aren't that attention grabbing, even if you do have a lot of great and tasteful mods, the 650 just isn't the kind of showstopper that other more exotic motorcycles are. Finally, the number one reason why 650s suck is because they're the default choice. They're the bike that most people get as their second motorcycle because it's just what you do. You outgrew the Ninja 300, time to get yourself a 650. Yeah, this is a little bit like that point that I made earlier, but it isn't about the bikes being safe or risk-averse. It's just that they're the de facto next step in motorcycling careers. Yet another stepping stone on the way to bigger and better things. If you own a 650, I'm not trying to disparage you or your choice in motorcycles, but they tend to be temporary. Maybe you move on to something else and track prep your 650, or you keep it as a weekender or a commuter, but it's usually not the bike you want to brag about. So enjoy your 650. It's a good motorcycle, but do yourself a favor and try other kinds of bikes before you decide to pick one up or before you crown it your forever bike.
So real bummer, this video is actually over, but you're in luck. There are hundreds of other Yammie Noob videos you can go and check out. Hit this one right over here. Watch it. Do it for Yammie-chan.